What? You're gonna run up to somebody with a gun with a fire extinguisher?
Good day, my name's Kitty. I'm a villain life coach. I'd say it's a pleasure to meet me, but that would definitely be a lie. I can tell by the general desperation in your tags that you're trying really hard to become a comedian here on this app, so let me give you some constructive criticism. I have had some minor successes, even though, the only person who thinks I'm funny is me, but apparently other people do too. I don't know, moderate successes and all that. But I can tell that you're trying really hard to imitate the beauty and loveliness that is the Queen Drew, with that, vicious mockery followed by laugh. But see, the key difference is that her jokes are actually funny to her as well. That's why the natural laugh rolls, and it's actually something that's funny. But because you have to do those little pauses before all of your clips in order to have that laugh, it's coming across as really forced, and you shouldn't force laughs so much. It's really bad for your lungs, and that will devalue them on the black market. Now let's get into your actual content. I can tell by the gray in your beard that you were able to focus a lot more on your class clown activities than you were having to worry about getting shot up in a school. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like that experience did you any good. I guess you didn't really ever pick up that class clown vibe you were trying to go for was everybody else just desperately wishing you would stop trying to talk and breathe at the same time. They would much rather be doing their algebra than having to listen to you vie for the attention your parents don't give you. The point of my video is not fire extinguisher beats gun. It's not rock, paper, scissors, and there are no absolutes. So what my video is meant to be is that let's talk to the teachers, the personality type of which you are not aware, because clearly contextual clues and character analysis is not your strongest suit. So the personality types of teacher tend to have high empathy stats and low combat stats, meaning that due to their empathetic nature, the idea of inherently lethal item like a gun is not something that they can safely or feel comfortable using. And one of the earliest rules of firearm training is that you cannot be afraid of your firearm, right? See, these teachers have the ability to actually think about the consequences of their actions, and so given that they are not Annie Oakley, and you are not Annie Oakley, that the minute that door goes down, there is going to be a ballistics back and forth, and unlike the shooter, they have the constant distraction of hearing the children they care about very dearly dying all around them, thus probably hindering their accuracy just a bit. Even seasoned cops and veterans, if they see somebody or get gray matter splattered on their face, they tend to look to the side just out of that instinct, which is a lot harder to plan and prepare for, and if they're not going to be accurate, then they might very well just get shot and die anyway, and the shooter can keep on keeping on. Just because you have a gun does not mean you're going to outshoot the shooter. You're also not knowing what exactly caliber you have versus what they have. Having the weight of another human being's death on your shoulders is not really cut out for everyone. There are even cops and veterans who will tell you that that is an absolute trauma that they deal with to this day, even though it was kill or be killed in their case. So I ask you, how would it feel if the ballistics report came back, because they are in an enclosed space and there's a lot of chaos, children running around in panic and fear, that one of the children who was maimed or killed was done so by a bullet that came from the teacher's gun? That's not really even touching on the financial aspect of it, the time management aspect of it, the risk of having a firearm in the classroom that children could get their hands on. And if you think that they can't get their hands on them, I was able to break into my teacher's desk for test scores all the time. So it's never as secure as you think it is. And there are plenty of gun owners who have dead children who would probably agree that, yeah, they thought it was a lot more secure than it was. This is not just trying to convince somebody to drink their apple cider vinegar. I can do it without it bothering me, but a lot of other people have issues doing it and would struggle. Some would even throw it up. Some would just not like it. You're trying to tell people to just get a gun and get over their psychological as well as financial, logistical, etc. reasons that have made it an impossible feat for them. And again, this is a little different than just taking medicine or drinking apple cider vinegar. This is lethal level actions and lethal level consequences, and you should never be afraid or hesitant with the item you are bringing to any form of combat. In comparison to something like a fire extinguisher that in and of itself is not an inherently lethal thing. Now, of course, anything can be lethal. You're 100% correct. And there are kickbacks and drawbacks to every single thing that you could possibly do in this situation. Nothing is instantaneous, and you never know what you're going to do in the moment. But being able to comfortably plan, prepare, and practice something actually allows you to have any chance to overcome your freeze response or other neurological things that can happen in these high-stress, adrenaline-pumping moments. And in fact, the entire point of my video was not that you survive. It's just inherently accepting the spite and fatalism that this person is going to take your life no matter what, so you may as well be on a highway to hell, sugar you're going down swinging, and be as much of a problem for them as physically possible to give the children a chance to escape or otherwise survive where they may not have. If you manage to decrease this shooter's accuracy even a little, making them have a difficulty breathing because of the substance getting in their system, making them have to wipe their face, their goggles, their visor because the substance got on their face, compromising the floor so that they potentially slip or have an issue, or being more mindful of where they're standing. All of these would inherently give you somewhat better of a chance to make yourself a problem before you die. Not to mention, you don't even have to wait for the door to open. You can just spray the floor. As soon as that door looks like it's on its last leg for compromising, you can spray the floor and have it going so that their floor is already compromised. And once they get in, it's just instantly going to be on them and in their system. I've seen conflicting reports on whether it's a chemical or a CO2 one, which one would or wouldn't impact some form of firearm. I've seen people say only one would. I've seen people say that both would inherently potentially cause an issue because, I mean, guns can malfunction when nothing is in them. So that kind of substance isn't healthy for the situation, but I even acknowledge that there's no guarantee that it's going to cause a jam in the gun. I believe in speaking to the psychology of the people who have to actually deal with the consistent problem. So telling them, or the students, because the students could also grab the fire extinguisher if they think to, that they have to just have a gun and get over it and get over the potential lethal backlashes and legal backlashes they would have to be suffering if there was some kind of incident or screw up, is not an inherently smart piece of advice, because it's not going to be appealing to the people you're trying to have listen to you. If the open carry teachers understand all of the risks and know that they are going to face the repercussions of their actions if any of those things come through, that is ultimately their decision, and they can deal with the peer pressure from their peers about how inherently power dynamic and balancing having a gun is, and the fact that if they're the only open carry teacher, then obviously a school shooter would know who to take out first, and they can't defend against that first shot. But I mean, those are risks that they do have a right to take. Anyway, to the teachers who have been listening to this, understand once again that if you don't have a fire extinguisher in your room and this is something that you want to go forward with, there are some people who have pointed out that reaching out to something like a Lowe's, home improvement store, or even your local firehouse, you might be able to get a one-time donation, as it's a good PR move and it's an easy tax write-off for them. And it's not like you have to constantly replace all of the fire extinguishers in a school. They're good for usually about 10 years. And if you absolutely must get one on your own, they're not the most expensive thing to invest in, even though, again, it sucks that you would ever have to spend your own money on your job. I would offer you this man's nuts that I just, verbally castrated from him, but as you'll see, they are rather small and fragile, so they're not going to be worth anything on the market, I'm afraid. And don't you worry, I was not triggered or anything by your content, because at the end of the day, I'd have to care about your opinion and what you say to be triggered by it. I just know how the internet works, and the internet does enjoy a vicious mockery, which is what I've just performed. And that will help boost my message, and this also gives me a place where I can tag all the people who yell about arming the teachers, so they can see why that is inherently not the best of ideas, or why rather it's just completely negates the people involved in the situation, who are constantly looking at having no solution and just accepting the fact they're going to have to stand there and be a human meat shield. I don't want you to be a human meat shield. I want you to be a human offensive weapon, even though you shouldn't have to be either.